Neville Goddard, 1965 lectures. Believe in Him. March 5th, 1965. Blank space subject. I would title really Believe in Him. And so who is this one that I must believe in? We're told in Scripture everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled. Luke 24:44. But everything, exclamation point. Well, what first did Moses write about me? For I'm here tonight, I'm talking to you, and the Bible is very personal. It's all about the individual. So here I stand before you. He wrote about me. What did he say about me when I come here on the platform to talk to you? He said, tell them I am has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be known throughout all the generations. Exodus 3:14. That's all that you tell them. I am has sent me to you. Then what did the prophet say? The prophet said, before me no God was formed. I know not any. I am the Lord your God, and besides me there is no Savior. Isaiah 43:3-11. That's what the prophet said? Yes. That's what Isaiah the prophet said to tell me, to tell you. Then what did the psalmist say? The psalmist told me to say, be still and know that I am God. Psalms 46:10. So everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled. Here he demands a primary interest. You can't turn to any idol, no wizard, no medium, nothing in this world. He will not stand for it. Turn only to him, for there is no other God. And who is he? I am. There is no other God. Well, how can I prove him now? How can I prove him now? These are but words. How can I actually prove him? Well, you can prove him in a very simple way. First of all, let us turn. A friend of mine came last Wednesday, that is, two of my friends, I should say, husband and wife, and he told me that he'd sent my book, Feeling is the Secret, to his brother in Oklahoma, and the brother wrote that he got so much from it. He applied it, and it worked. He assumed that he assumed that he was what he wanted to be in business, and everything moved beautifully. But I cannot go along with Neville when it comes to the end of the book, said he. For at the end of the book, it seems blasphemous, for at the end he is suggesting to the reader that the reader should assume, I am Jesus. So he went to my library and took the book, Feeling is a Secret, from the library, and opened it up to the page before the end, and there it was. You should assume that I am Jesus. I am God. For if I and my Father are one, I could do the works of my Father only if I am with my Father. So I must assume that I am Jesus. So he said to his brother, I can't do that, as that seems to me a blasphemous suggestion, but I have applied it wisely and successfully in business. Now, a friend of mine, another chap now, and a very, very wealthy person, inherited wealth. Yes, he has earned and increased his wealth, but inherited wealth. He said to me, I have experienced every emotion in this world but one, and that one is poverty. I never knew what it was to be poor, and so if I went off to Cambodia and became a monk and slept on a board, leaving my fabulous home behind me, I went off every day for 2 weeks with my little bowl to beg for rice, and went from house to house, and they filled the little bowl with rice. I did this to experience that emotion of poverty. Wow. And do you know that today, with all of his millions, he believes that he experienced it? Oh, didn't Mel Brooks make a movie where he was about to, I think, make a new property development? I just saw this trailer for this. Life Stinks, I think is the name of it. Mel Brooks, what a genius. And he had to, his, I guess, business partner possibly, or adversary, I don't know, was going to bet him that he couldn't do it for so many hours or days, go out on the streets and be among the poor and see if he could survive. And then if he did do it, then he would give him the other $1 billion that this partner was betting him, his billion, to put in for this huge property development. And Mel Brooks went out there. Oh, you got to look up the trailer. It is funny. I'll put it in the description box too. It's just funny. This whole concept. This guy says, okay, let's listen to him again. Let's listen to that one more time. I got to play it again. Now, a friend of mine, another chap now, a very, very wealthy person, inherited wealth. Yes, he has earned and increased his wealth, but inherited wealth. He said to me, I've experienced every emotion in this world but one, and that one is poverty. I never knew what it was to be poor. And so I went off to Cambodia and became a monk and slept on a board, leaving my fabulous home behind me. And I went off every day for 2 weeks with my little bowl to beg for rice, and went from house to house, and they filled the little bowl with rice. I did this to experience that emotion of poverty. It just struck me. 48 Hours is another movie about this concept in a way. Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, great movie. Oh my gosh, what a hilarious movie also. And do you know that today, with all of his millions, he believes that he actually experienced it, poverty. Here is a multimillionaire dressed up in the rags of a beggar at a masquerade ball, knowing that the flunky is going to simply announce that Mr. Jones is here and the car will come and take him home to his fabulous home. At the end of 2 weeks, he'll get on a plane, fly back to his fabulous home here in the hills of Hollywood, up in Mulholland. That's where he lives, a fabulous place. And so he really believes that he experienced poverty. May I tell you, what we have not traversed emotionally, we have not lived. But I could tell him tonight how to do it. If he really wants to know, if he really wants to now how to really experience, I think there's a K missing, I'm sorry. Natalie, you did great work, but sometimes my brain finds those little errors and I try to plow through because I know everything's so right in here. I don't want to mess up your words, or Neville's especially. But there's a K missing, so I will read it as if it's a K. But I could tell him tonight how to do it. If he really wants to know how to really experience poverty, it's so simple, so very simple. And I will tell you how to experience wealth, and that's equally simple. Both are equal. You can experience wealth just as you can experience poverty. For everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled. Now go and tell them exactly what I told you in the law of Moses, and through my servants, the prophets, and through my servant, the psalmist. He told me exactly that I am the Lord, and besides me, there is no God, there is no Savior. Now let me use just a little imagery. I wouldn't ask you to take it literally, but I related it to my world. I think everyone in our world, this fabulous land of America, or say the Western world, or sometime owned a little camera. I know I did, a little Brownie. I never heard of that Brownie. I had a 110. If any of you are old enough to have had a 110, rock and roll, man. Everyone at some time either owned one or experienced the experience of having a photograph taken. And so here we have these silly little thing. Well, many years ago, it struck me forcibly that I would relate my mind to a sensitized film that I would set up in a time exposure before an imaginal event. But you don't need much time. You simply focus what you want to take and you set it up in a time exposure. Well, a time exposure isn't going to take more than a second or 2 seconds at the most. But you set it up, and then there's a way of taking it. Then you take it. Strangely enough, this kind of camera is always loaded. You don't buy the film. You don't send it off to be developed. It costs you nothing. It simply produces results. Boy, oh boy, he just mentioned something, man. And I tell you how many pictures, I took so many pictures in the Navy. When we were on cruise, we would send them off to the local country. We would be near, like Italy, for instance. When we were near Naples, we would just get tons of rolls developed. I mean, they really would do the service for us. But being back in California, in San Francisco, where my ship was ported in Alameda, of course, you'd go to the mall right down the street in Alameda, and there was, I remember going there so often because I was a shutterbug. I had a Canon AE1 that I bought off my shipmate, Mike Nail. Haven't heard or seen him in ages, but you used to have to go to these places, wait a couple weeks or a couple days or a week, come back, get your film, or I don't think they'd call you. They'd just tell you come back and pick it up by such and such day. Then we came out with the hour turnaround where you'd go to the mall, and there's a Fox photography store, and you'd drop it off and shop around and come back in 1 hour, and you'd have your pictures ready. Wow. You don't buy the film. You don't send it off to be developed. It costs you nothing. It simply produces results. It simply develops all that you take and projects it on the screen of space. And there you have a three-dimensional picture in moving dramas in your world, just based upon what you're taking. So I liken my mind to a sensitized film, which I would set up in a time exposure before an imaginal event. I could tell you what I'm going to focus. I could tell you what I'm going to focus and what I would take. Then I discovered how it would do it. I found a great secret concerning feeling. I tried all kinds of things and found that this peculiar thing worked. I would simply get myself, as I looked at my picture that I wanted to take, and I would breathe and breathe and breathe in and out. And finally, I got more and more excited, as though the thing was becoming more sensitized. Then I found that as I looked at it and made one deep inhalation, the picture, I exploded. The only word I can find to describe the sensation that every little atom of my being exploded, from my head to my toes, my fingers, everything. Then I had no desire to repeat that performance. It seemed to relieve me. A sense of release possessed me, so that I used last Tuesday night an expression: of all the pleasures of the world, relief is the most keenly felt. Now take a note there, permanently etch that in your brain. That's the whole secret right there in that one sentence, relief. When you're imagining what the man or woman you want to be, and you're imagining it as you fall asleep, and you're imagining the excitement of it, it's the relief of having been there, because you're there. You are there. You're thinking from there when you're imagining falling asleep. So you're relieved to be there. After you eat the pizza that gets delivered, you're relieved. You throw the dishes in the sink and you're, all done. Of all the pleasures of the world, relief is the most keenly felt. I discovered that you feel it and you have no desire to repeat it. And then time develops it and projects it, and it comes to pass. No different than the procreative act. It's a buildup of energy. It's an explosion. Feels like every atom in your body explodes. That's the feeling. That's the exact same feeling. You're doing it now with your imagination of an experience. I am, fill in the blank, whatever it is you want to be. Breathe, breathe, inhale, and then your entire being explodes in a fury of relief. It's the same process. It's creative. And then it comes to pass. Time develops it and projects it, and it comes to pass. So I discovered that all that was written about me is true. There is no other Savior. You can bring yourself out of poverty into whatever you consider to be wealth. And that's a relative term. You may not desire $1 million. You may desire, say, $100,000. That may seem to you enormous security, all right? If it does, that's it. That's a thousandaire. If 10,000 would make it, that's it. I don't care what it is. You take the picture, leave it alone, and then the whole vast world convulses and moves towards bringing to birth this picture. You may not like many things that are going to happen between taking the picture and the birth or the projection of that picture in 3 dimensions. But you took it, good, bad, or indifferent. You want to be a millionaire? You want to be a thousandaire? That's the first one. Let's go from just a thousandaire. It could be 10,000, 100,000. It could be 500,000. It could be 900,000. That's a thousandaire. You want to be a millionaire? Well, now you have between 1 million and 1,000 million. That's all the millions. You want to be a billionaire? That's between 1,000 million, which is a billion, and 1,000 billion, which is a trillion. Which one? Remember, those are all little children. You have to. It's like you all of a sudden have all those little. Each one of those little dollars is a child you have to manage now. Okay, so be careful what you wish for. You may not like many things that are going to happen between taking the picture and the birth or the projection of that picture in 3 dimensions, but you took it, good, bad, or indifferent. Now, I have permission to share with you this night a story. A friend of mine wrote me, and he asked me to mention the names that all. He asked me not to mention the names that all. I'm sorry. A friend of mine wrote me, and he asked me not to mention the names, that's all. But I'm perfectly free to mention anything but the name of the individual series. Well, for 4 odd years, he has been a writer on a very popular series on TV in prime time. He got tired after 4 years of the same format, just didn't care for the same format. No creative artist wants the same thing over and over and over. And so he knows tonight that his attitude towards it was the cause that the network that carried it for 4 years did not renew the contract. That the network, and so it was dropped. He knows he was the cause. But because he is a good writer, there was no difficulty in finding other things, and another series just as big by the Nielsen ratings picked him up to write for it, and then another one for the future. But he's very sensitive, and having had 4 years with a certain producer and liking this man and the man liking him, by comparison, he didn't like these 2 new producers, not if he compared them to the one that he had 4 years with in his very popular series. And that producer of the first 4 years had all the money that it took to retire gracefully. I mean, comfortably. Because he didn't draw all of his money. 1961 to 65, what are we talking about? I know Star Trek came out at that time. I know Columbo was becoming popular, but I know Columbo went more years than that. And Star Trek, I think, started in 63. Those are very popular primetime series right there. I know Charlie's Angels, that was the first thing that came to mind, was later in the 70s when I was really a little kid. So I'm kind of curious on what that was, a 4-year running series. But it's probably easy to figure out, but let's move on. And that producer of the first 4 years had all the money that it took to retire gracefully, I mean comfortably, because he didn't draw all of his money. It would have been paid out in taxes, so he only drew half of it over a period of years, with the proviso that when I leave the studio, what I have not drawn will be paid to me. So he could live for years to come as he lived in previous years, because it's all there waiting and accumulating for him. So he took off for the islands. Well, he then began to write another very, very successful script. It's really the top of the rating today. But as I said, he didn't like the producer. Liked him. But I mean not to the extent that he felt close to him. Having heard something similar to what you're hearing now, he thought he would try this technique of breathing. So he simply relaxed in his room upstairs and brought before his mind's eye not that producer of the past, but a nice relationship, and felt the relief that would come if he had a lovely relationship with the producer. Then he said, I breathed and got the tingling sensation. And finally, I got the explosion. The minute I got the explosion, I knew it was done. I got right up, came downstairs, and told my wife what I had done and reminded her to be careful of breathing when she goes into meditation. Be careful what you wish for, right? I reminded her of this necessity of breathing properly to the point of inhalation and explosion. Inhalation, remember, it's inhale. The effect of the explosion is at the apex of the inhalation. Right there. Then the relief is with the exhalation. After I told her, I walked back upstairs. It would not take more than a minute, said he, from coming downstairs, talking to her, and returning upstairs. I no sooner got upstairs when the phone rang. It's my old producer of 4 years. And the network that dropped it, another network equally big, for there are 3 big networks to really come back and produce. Another big network picked it up and asked him, the former producer, to really come back and produce. He in turn said he needed me, so he called me up and said, I need you. Remember, he just did it. Felt the explosion. Walks downstairs, tells his wife, be careful about breathing because this stuff's real. I can sense it. Walks back upstairs, phone rings, boom. Minutes? I told him my commitments. I'm writing now for this show, which is equally big. I'm committed for another show in the fall, which I must write. And he said, well, leave it to me. He got in touch with the studio and got a release from that commitment so he could write with him. All in a matter of less than 1 minute, that picture developed. So I tell you, everything written about me. Now you can repeat these words about yourself. Don't think it's written about a thing called Neville. It's not written about Neville, it's written about me. And everyone can say the same thing. Me, that something in oneself. There is that in man, that something. There is that in man, that something to which whatever happens, he may turn. That something that whatever else fails remains firm, remains steadfast. That conscious citadel. And that conscious citadel is I am. And I likened it to a sensitized plate that I, one with it, set up in a time exposure. As I set it up, going to take something, don't just want to take empty space. So I put before it that which implies the fulfillment of my dream, like setting the camera and putting it towards the image you want to take. You put before it the image of you want to be. The fulfillment of my dream. For the potency of this whole thing is its implication. Implication. Always set up something that implies something. In my last series of videos, you can see me talking constantly about coming home from your honeymoon. When you come home from your honeymoon, that implies everything else that happened. That implies you definitely were married. That implies you definitely were on the islands or you were somewhere on a nice honeymoon. That implies you met somebody. That implies you got engaged. That implies you got together and got married. Obviously, after dating, in some way, shape, or form, getting to know each other, walking into your new house, coming home from your honeymoon, implies everything else. That's the implication. When you go to the end, you're implying all else is done already. If I'm walking into my new house with my new spouse, Everything else is already. That's implied. Always set up something that implies something. Not just a picture without any meaning. It must have meaning. So he set up before his mind's eye that which had meaning and just breathed and breathed in and out. It's a peculiar, try it, it gets a peculiar rhythm. And then you bring it to a certain point of excitement. You begin to tingle, and then one little explosion, bang, and everything explodes. Your whole body explodes. Your hands begin to tingle all over. Your head, your entire body, as though something goes out of it. And you read these words, "Who touched me? For I perceive virtue has gone out of me." Luke 8:45-46. Something goes out. It's a creative act. In the beginning, he took us and actually impregnated himself with that love he held for us. We are the object of his love. In his case, called God by man, it takes longer to bring that image of himself to fruition, which is one with himself. We are that becoming one with himself. We are that. It takes a minute. Not literally, but figuratively, it takes a minute. But while we, the same being, keyed low on this level, we can bring it as quickly as he brought it in a minute. We all do it anyway. A man has done it unwittingly and brought poverty into his world, brought sickness into the world, brought everything that he doesn't want in this world. But man can, by the same technique, bring all the lovely things in this world into being. There's only one being, just I am. So the story is true. I have come, said he, only to bear witness to all that is written about me. And if you did not believe what Moses wrote, you will not believe me, he said. For all that he wrote about me. And so he who is not with me is against me. It's just as simple as that. If you're not with me, then you're against me. If you don't believe this, then you're against it. You might think that you believe in God. You might think that you believe in Jesus Christ. The chances are you do implicitly, but you don't know either God or Jesus Christ. If you don't know that Jesus is your own wonderful human imagination. Repeating the sentence, but you don't know either God or Jesus Christ if you don't know that Jesus is your own wonderful human imagination. Right there. If you don't know that God's only name is I am, and that you can't say I am and point anywhere, it's simply I am. That's my name forever. And by this I must be known throughout all generations. That's my name. You can't point anywhere and say I am. Not possible. Well, if you try it as he did and got such quick results, how could you turn to make an idol? We are warned, do not turn to idols and do not make molten images of me. Do not turn to any medium or wizard and become defiled by that turn towards the medium and the wizard, for I am the Lord your God. Don't turn to the without is what he's saying. Don't turn to anybody. It's here. That's told us in the 19th chapter of the book of Leviticus, verses 4 and 31. Do not turn to anything outside of your own being, which is I am. But man, conditioned as he is, he thinks that, well, maybe I know a wise person. He could help me, or know some very wise medium, and they can look into the little glass and tell me what is in store for me. So we go to the teacup leaves, or all kinds of things outside of I am. And there is no power in this world but God. and God is I am. That's the only power in the world. I have to admit, it was nice with Sylvia, my teacher, and also then Beth, who came to the numerology classes and tarot classes, and then we all studied Seth together. But it was nice that we had another language. That language was numerology. So if we were talking about a person's dilemma or something somebody was struggling with, we could all speak that language of the numerology and use it in that sense of understanding. We never really used it as divination, like as in predictive. Even though you believe me, man, the way Sylvia taught it and the way she learned it and the way it became known to myself and to Beth, we really understood it on a level that you could see time and timing, but we didn't use it that way. Even though you could see it, I mean, you really could see everything. But one of the most fascinating things that I like about numerology, speaking about this point, is that we had a language, a sub-language, even within our Seth understanding, which was a whole nother universal level like this. This is universal. Seth material is also universal, but the numerology was more of a specific pinpoint type of language, which gave us a sub-conversation under the Seth conversation, which was really cool. Because when you're speaking the same language with somebody, it really is a good thing. You have an understanding. But then comes the time when you buy the pearl. And then you understand exactly what he just said. You don't go to the teacup leaves. You don't go to anybody on the outside. You think you might know somebody wise and they look in a little glass for you or tell you what's in store. No. It's all in you already. There's no power in this world but God, and God is I am. That's the only power in the world. Now, if this night, seated here, or when you go home, you can actually set up something you want to photograph, set it up in the mind's eye. You know it costs you nothing. Isn't that a beauty? Anybody can do this. And let them remind you the camera is loaded, you didn't buy the film, and that wonderful film is very sensitive. And all you have to practice is how to take the picture. If you spoil 1,000 films, it makes no difference. It's always loaded. If you spoil unnumbered, it doesn't make any difference. We are here to practice how to take these pictures. And so take them, and they will develop and project themselves as three-dimensional objects in our world. Now we went home and he took it. Now he went home and he took it. He said, I know that I was the cause of the network that carried the show for 4 years not picking up the option because I disliked the format after 4 years. Now the other network that has picked up that play has allowed the producer to change the format. So we're going into production with a changed format, which now fires the mind. I can't do the same thing over and over and over. So because I have a new format, I can really go to town, something entirely different. I use the same office, the same star, but she is such a great star. I don't have to confine her to one little thing. She's already done so many lovely things in this world. I have seen her on Broadway, I've seen her on TV, I've seen her in many other ways. And I've seen her and I've seen her as such a tremendous artist. She can't do any kind of thing. She can do any kind of thing, Why completely confine her to one simple little thing? You know, he could have took a picture and changed that network. This is all hindsight, I know, but he at least is understanding he's found God and he's using him. That's what really matters, but he could have changed the whole thing too. Well, he got tired as an artist himself, and so he knows that he was the cause of the network not picking up that option, and a network equal in size picked it up and gave permission to change the format. Now he's all excited, starts working on a new format with an artist that he loves and a producer that he loves. They have so much in common. and yet he hasn't lost with others. He could still do these if he has the time. It takes time, naturally. At least he knows now this night by his letter, which I received yesterday, what this really, really means. Let us go back to the first part in the very beginning of Genesis, to Genesis. It's my favorite line in all of it, literally. And the Spirit of the Lord moved upon the face of the waters. 1, 2. That's literally my favorite line in all of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. All 66 books, the entire book itself, that's my favorite line right there. That word, that's Genesis 1, 2. That word spirit is the same word as wind, as breath. In Hebrew, same word. When we turn to the book of John, as the wind blows where it wills, and you hear the sound thereof. That word wind is also spirit in Greek. The same word for wind is the same word for spirit, both in Greek and in Hebrew. So here, it's a breath. Put your head under the water and keep it there for a while until you can't breathe. Then there is no you. That which is the life of man departs. It's the breath. But I tell you from experience, it's not exhalation, it's inhalation. It's a self-impregnation. You don't breathe upon a thing, breathe upon oneself. You can take it in, you can look upon it with your mind's eye, and you take a deep inhalation. The picture. And explode within yourself. You're so thrilled with what you see, and you feel it. Your whole body feels it. Remember, this is a very interesting point. Put your head under the water and keep it there for a while until you can't breathe. Then there is no you. You remember when I made the comment that if you want to know how valuable your life is, go to my pool right now and let me hold your head underwater and you'll see how valuable your life is. Whoa. You want that breath of life in you. That's the impregnation he's describing right now. Who's breathing in for you? He made you in his image. You're constantly breathing in. You're constantly taking that picture from your inhalation. You put your head underwater and there's no you, and you're struggling because you're not done. You're not done. I'm not describing when someone decides they want to unbe. That's not the same point right here. The same point is, the main point right here, right now, is that he made us in his image to become him. He became us so he could become him. If you're underwater and you can't breathe, you don't have your attachment to him. You struggle to get back to it. That's the attachment. That inhalation is the attachment. That's my intuition right now telling me this from what we just read. Now tonight, he sits here in a happy state of mind because he is with the man he likes to work with. What is better than just working in a friendly, harmonious way? If you made much, much more money, he makes enough, it wouldn't compensate. So tonight he knows, and he's told his wife of what he's experienced, and I'm trying to share it with you. So I use the imagery of a sensitized plate. I do it only because everyone here is familiar with a camera. We're familiar with taking pictures. Now, I don't know that we can translate the concept here so much. But for those of you who remember film and see your pictures, maybe your parents or grandparents have pictures laying around, this is what we're talking about. And if you were lucky in school, like I was, I felt very lucky. 10th grade was a photography class. And then also in 10th, 11th, and 12th, for myself, I was in graphic arts as a major. And we dealt with plates and burning a plate and then developing the plate and going into the dark room and using and taking copy and developing it as pictures and then taking that over to the thing that burned the plate. It was exactly what. So I have a lot of that recollection right here. If you don't, it's simply what makes that little photograph. You go to Walgreens, they still print pictures, I believe. You just send them your files, your digital files, and they'll actually print the photos for you there. So if I use the imagery of a sensitized plate, I do it only because everyone here is familiar with a camera. We're familiar with taking pictures, but this is such a marvelous camera that you don't have at any moment in time to send it off for repairs. You don't have to buy film for it. You don't have to send that film off to be developed. Life itself develops it. So here, don't do what this friend of mine did. Try to acquire merit to get into heaven. Can't do it. That film is being developed by life itself. God took you, and God's picture of you is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is God's picture of man. For Jesus Christ is the image of the invisible God. But it takes not overnight to develop that. It takes 6,000 years. I was just going to mention that a few paragraphs back, but I didn't want to go there. So let no one tell you that you can acquire merit. And by acquiring merit, earn your way into the new age. That's coming regardless of what you do here. For in the depths of your soul, God took you, and you in his eye, you are Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the image of the invisible God. And it takes the roughness and all these blows of life, called in Scripture the furnaces of affliction, to produce that image of God. When it's produced, you come out as the reality that is God himself. But while we are waiting for it, we are invited to be imitators of God as dear children. Well, find out how he did it. What did he do to impress himself that I am his image? Well, I found out how he did it. I have found out by testing it on this level. For the same creative power operates here in the identical manner. So he must have done it in the same way that I did it to become what reason told me I couldn't. Reason told me you could never become what you've become. You could never live the way you are living. Never. All right. I tried it. I became what I became, which seemed an impossible thing. I'm living as I'm living, which also seemed impossible from that level. And I remembered what I did. That's exactly what God did. He held me in his mind's eye. That sensitized being that he is, and breathed me in. That's what he did. And I took that impression of God. And then life is developing it and brought it to a certain point. As I stand before you, he has already broken the shell and unveiled to his satisfaction. That's exactly what he did. So when the time comes in the not distant future, this little thing is taken off. I am one with God, the same form. For in this same little garment, here a new creature was formed. And out of the same face, another spirit is looking. No one here with mortal eye can see the form of which I am fully aware when you look at this garment that you see here. But I am fully conscious of it. And I know what he did for me, he did for every being in this world. He self-impregnated that being. It's a self-impregnation. And the only thing he did was to see you as his image. And his image is Jesus Christ. Then at that moment in time, when it is ripe for the breaking, all right, he unveils it, still leaving you with a little gossamer to tell it to as many as will hear it. But then in a little while, he takes it off for the last time, and then you are one with the resurrected, for that's his purpose. But he said, go and tell them who I am, for I became you. He didn't pretend that he became you. God didn't pretend that he became man. He became man. So when you say, I am, that's he. No pretense, that's God. And just as he did it in the grand manner, he does it in this limited way in the world of Caesar. And we move from poverty to wealth, or from wealth to poverty. So don't do what my friend did, leave your wealth behind and go off and spend 2 weeks on a blank space begging for rice. You will never in eternity earn the kingdom that way. Can't do it. What we have not actually traversed emotionally, we haven't lived. And so if I knew I could do it, and so tonight, I could tell him, you really want to know what it is to be poor? If he dared to answer me in the affirmative and would tell me, yes, I would like to experience poverty, it would only take him a split second to take that picture of poverty, and no power on the earth could stop his estate from going into the gutter. No power on earth. He will go right down into the gutter, and he will know what it is to be poor. Then he will have the emotion which he feels that he has lacked. He feels that he has experienced every emotion in the world. That's quite an extravagant claim. But that's what he told me. Every emotion in the world but one, and that one he didn't have the experience of, poverty. So to have that, he leaves his millions behind, very well secured. He could always send a cable to his bankers to arrange $1 million if he wanted it in Cambodia. That's where he went, to Cambodia. Let me take a sip. I had the dubious pleasure of meeting the keeper of the king's conscience of Cambodia in the home of my friend, a holy man. Holy man. So he came into the place, and we all took off our shoes and had to be in his presence without shoes. And of course, this friend of mine got down and prostrated himself. My wife very wisely found the nearest chair to sit comfortably. She said, I'm not prostrating myself before anyone. So she got a nice big easy chair. There were only 2 chairs, and she took one. And of course, I was in the presence of ladies, and I couldn't take the other. But I wouldn't prostrate myself. I stood in my bare feet in the presence of this thing. He was this holy man, and he had to get off at a certain time, had to go back to his place, because he had to rise early for meditation, and he had all these talks the next day. The minute he went through the door at 9 o'clock, I said to my wife, we've had enough stupidness for one day. Come on, let's go. Get our shoes and go. So I called the butler and said, give me my shoes. So all of these piles of shoes, I found my big ones. Then I got into my shoes, and as fast as that car could go before my host came back, because he was going to come back and tell us all about this holy man. A phony of phonies. But it goes on all over the world. All over the world. Not only in that denomination, but in all denominations. That's not God. God is our own wonderful human imagination. That's God. There is no other God. God became man that man may become God. Come test me. Excuse me. And there is no other God. Now you can put it to the test. He said, come test me, prove me, and see. Where did he say it? In the book of Malachi, in the last of the Old Testament. Come prove me and see if I do not open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings upon you so great you haven't room on earth to receive it. 3:10. And boy, oh boy, if it doesn't feel that way. Come prove me and see if I do not open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings upon you so great you haven't room on earth to receive it. That's Malachi 3:10. Well, how would I prove it? Now we're told in the book of Corinthians, the last chapter of 2 Corinthians, do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you? Test him and see. 13:5. You're called upon to test it. Well, if he's in me, and by him all things are made, and without him there's nothing made that is made, surely I can test him. Well, my friend tested it, and I'm asking everyone here to test him. All you're doing is simply making these creative acts. You are the creative power. You are Jesus Christ, which is the creative power of God. And you simply bring it before your mind's eye, set it up in a time exposure. Split second, that's all. You breathe in and breathe it out. Breathe it in and breathe it out. And all of a sudden you get a peculiar, lovely feeling, an excitement. It's a creative feeling. And then one deep inhalation, and every atom of your being explodes. And it's done. That picture. It's done. Now, you don't toy with it. Just leave it. You may not even recognize your harvest when it comes. In his case, it came so quickly he could recognize it, which is a lovely thing. For now he knows it more thoroughly than he knows anything else. It's obvious. The result happened immediately. But had the same thing come, say, in a month later or 6 months later, in the interval, so many things would have happened. He may have not have related the outpicturing of his impress that he made to the thing itself. He may even deny that he himself had planted it and denied his own harvest. Happens all the time. Unwittingly. However, I say that's a true story. I have his letter on me. Don't take it from me. I have it on me because it made such an impression on me last night. How did Neville dictate all of that literally by memory? I mean, wow. He dictated the man's letter all by memory. There was so much detail in there. I was wondering to myself, is he reading it? And I only know of one lecture where he admitted he took something onto the lectern one time, because it was so intricately detailed, he wanted to make doubly sure he didn't misquote it. He did that once. However, I say that's a true story. I have his letter on me. Don't take it from me. I have it on me because it made such an impression on me last night. I was sitting with all of my, well, as I always do when I'm not expecting guests and not expecting anyone, sitting in my big leather chair, reading the Bible, and not a sock on my foot, with my big feet sticking out this way. And so he came to the door, rang the bell, and my wife answered. He wouldn't come in. He was on his way to dinner, so he just simply stuck this letter in her hand. I'm quite sure he looked in as he went down, he would have seen these enormous 12-inch feet sticking out without shoes. But at least he left this most wonderful thing that I can share with you. So I'm asking you to share with me, as he did, that I can really excite people. Because the power that I feel I possess this way is really to move the imagination of others. It's the same thing here on this channel. Please share your success stories. Throw them in the comments. Any little tiny one. A pizza, a free cup of coffee, a parking space, any of them. They all make a difference. But I can move it better if you will share with me your stories. If I tell you the same story over and over, it gets as tiring as he got tired of the same format. Now he's excited to get out and just do something entirely different with the same artist. Well, if you give me your stories, then I can tell others and tell you the story, and you become all the more excited. You go home determined to do something about it. So tonight, when you go home, I know you'll try it. May I tell you, it will not take you all told more than 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You sit in a chair or get on a bed, construct the scene that you're going to take, and then get excited because it's true. And then you will learn the art of breathing. I can't quite give it to you. It's just something that comes to you. It's the inhalation, exhalation, inhalation, but you don't yet explode. In and out, in and out. And then you feel it coming, and you can feel the thing coming upon you. And then all of a sudden, one deep inhalation, and everything explodes within you. And like an actual, physical, creative act, you have no desire to repeat it, none whatsoever. It's just like that. Physical creative act is, let's call it also procreation. The procreative act, there is no desire to continue once it's done. None. It's done. The sensation and thrill is equally great to any physical creative act. Only it doesn't have the physical expression. Only a psychic expression because your whole body explodes. It doesn't express itself in a physical state, but in a psychic state, spiritual state. Fourth dimension. So I quoted this night, if you want scripture, the 3rd chapter of Exodus, the 19th of Leviticus, the 43rd chapter of Isaiah, the 46th Psalm, the 24th of Luke, and the 11th of Luke, and the others I have given you. These are the foundation stones to build the thought I want to give you tonight. Everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled. And so that is the grand fulfillment. When his image is unfolded within us, that's the grand story. In the meanwhile, we duplicate his creative act in our wonderful world. But his real image is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is in you. That's where he lives. That's when he entered you. So God became man, that man may become God. Now we're about to go into the silence, so use the breathing. Take your picture. Easy, easy, easy right now. Let us go into the silence. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Picture taken. Question. Blank space. He groaned in the spirit. Answer. He groaned in the spirit. Question mark. Give me a larger section of the passage. Question. I read it today and I'm sorry that I didn't keep the point. I should have written it down. I believe it was at the point where he was raising Lazarus. Answer. That's when he wept. Question. Yes. Answer. Well, weeping is an emotional state. I would like to take the entire passage of that 11th chapter to do justice to your question. You undoubtedly read it in that book, reduced to just quotes from Scripture. It's a lovely book, and I do recommend it, but to take it out of context that way, he groaned in the Spirit. Well, I think we all groan in the Spirit here. Everyone does. There's a moment of concern, a moment of apprehension, a moment of this, that, and the other. That's groaning in the Spirit. Then comes that relief, which of all pleasures is the most keenly felt. So the relief comes after groaning in the Spirit. If you're anxious because your daughter is late, I know I've had anxious moments with my daughter coming home. She said, Daddy, I'll be coming home at 10. And 11, there's no Vicky. 11:30, and disciplined as I am, the mind starts going all over the place. Then you hear a familiar voice coming up, and then no matter what you might have entertained prior to that, that relief comes. I have seen people go to the door and from sheer joy, where were you? They didn't really mean that at all. They're so happy to see them. But it's all pent up. That's groaning in the Spirit. Question, Neville, in the same book, Jesus says to the disciples, I am glad that I was not there so that you might believe, in reference to Lazarus and his having been dead. Answer, well, first of all, in that story, he said he was sleeping. That's the first part of the story. He but sleepeth, I go to awaken him. And then he said, Lazarus is dead. John 11:14. Well, that is the drama that takes us. First of all, we are asleep here. We don't realize it, but we are. The sleep of Scripture is so deep, it's likened unto death. So he likened it unto death. Now he shows in this story a restoration. This isn't resurrection. It's restoration, where the individual who died in this world because he was already dead anyway, he departs from this world relative to the others, but he is restored relative to himself, not to those on this side of the veil. He is restored to life only to die again, because man continues until he is resurrected. Resurrection is a true departure from this age, where you enter that age, spoken of in the 20th chapter of the book of Luke, where in this age man procreates and is born, but those who are accounted worthy to attain to that age, to the resurrection from the dead, they neither procreate nor are they born, for they are now sons of God and sons of the resurrection. Luke 20:34. That's when Christ is completely formed in man, and he's one with his Father. That is God, and that is God. He is God. But here, we're wearing these garments and they seem to die, but they don't really die. They seem to die. Seth says the same thing. Jane Roberts, Robert Butts, Seth Material. Seth says the same exact thing. You're going to just go into the wheel, into another multi-dimensional part of yourself. You're going to wake up in that dream versus waking up in this dream. It's that simple and that fast. And since Neville has seen so many wake up in the next dream, and he knows that they're about 20-ish, brand new body, not one falling apart, but they're all on the same mission with the same objectives that they had. That lesson to learn is still there, right at the same exact place you were. But here we're wearing these garments and they seem to die, but they don't really die. They seem to die. But at what we all call death, they are restored to life only to live as we're living here, to die again. This process goes on as a form of development of the image that God is developing, which is himself. So he said he is dead. But prior to that, he said he is sleeping. And we're told in Ephesians, awake, you sleeper, rise from the dead, 5:14. So he calls him a sleeper, and still he calls him rising from the dead. I know in my own case, when I awoke within my own skull to discover that I am in a grave, I am in a sepulcher, and the sepulcher is my skull, I had no sensation other than, well, someone must have thought me dead to put me here, for I am in a tomb. The skull is a tomb. And I found myself in my skull. I knew the skull was a tomb. I was fully awake as I am now, and the skull seemed relative to me, standing in it. Say, half the size of this platform. I'm in my skull, and I know it to be a sepulcher. Well, no one is put into a sepulcher unless someone thought him dead. So someone who put me there thought me dead. Well, God put me there. I am the seed of God. The seed of God must fall into the ground and die before it is made alive. The mystery of life through death. So the ground into which it fell was my skull. This is the great earth into which the seed of God, the creative power of God, fell. And it is one with himself. Therefore, it is I am. Because his name is I am forever. So that which fell was I am. So I knew that when I woke in my skull, that I am. Then I came out in the form of one being born, with all the imagery of Scripture around me to support the claim of my birth from above. Good night. Boy, oh boy. There was a piece there I wanted to add when the breath part was when going in the pool, your head underwater. And I know I'm pretty sure, I forget where I read it or where I saw it or whatever, I learned it, that in older times, not that long ago, people used to think that your life, instead of your heart as the pump or the beating part that they could tell you were alive or dead or when you left your body. Doctors, people playing doctor, they considered that your life force was in your breath. And it's probably correct, because they noticed that when you stop, if you look at old movies that were portraying of the past and they're always trying to see, is he breathing still? They put a mirror over his mouth to tell if he's dead. The doctor would do that, because that was literally the life force of you. So they're probably actually more correct in that interpretation than stethoscope with the checking for your heartbeat, because it's literally either your breath's coming into you or it's not. Fascinating idea. Anyway, I wanted to add that little piece in there. I just forgot to. Believe in him. March 5th, 1965. We'll see you in the next one.